There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a corporate boardroom when the money runs out. It's not peaceful, it's heavy. It smells like stale coffee and panic sweat. I'm looking at a photograph of a man standing in an empty office. This is the subject. Let's call him dismantle in dismantle. C.I. the bio, L.E.A. in the bio. 6 months ago, he was driving a Porsche and screaming at interns for bringing him the wrong brand of sparkling water. He thought he was a god. He thought he was untouchable. He thought he could destroy people for sport and never pay the price. Today, he is bankrupt. His company is liquidated. His reputation is ash. And the best part? He has absolutely no idea who pulled the trigger. He thinks it was bad luck. He thinks it was the market. But it wasn't. It was one person. One quiet, overlooked employee who knew where the skeletons were buried and who knew exactly how to hand a shovel to the authorities. Welcome to the PI Diaries. Case file .bar849 open. Let's investigate. Before we dig into the evidence, make sure you're subscribed. Most people watching these files aren't. Don't miss the next investigation. Now, let's look at the client. Unlike our subject, the client isn't flashy. He doesn't wear Italian suits. He drives a 5-year-old sedan. He shows up on time, he does his work, he goes home. To a narcissist like the CEO, people like the client are invisible. They are furniture. They are batteries to be drained and discarded. The client worked as a mid-level operations manager. He had a front-row seat to the madness. The CEO ran the business like a personal piggy bank. Company funds were used for family vacations. Business trips were actually weekends in Vegas. Payroll was frequently late, but the CEO always had a new watch. The culture was toxic. That word gets thrown around a lot these days. But in this case, it was literal poison. Screaming matches in the hallway, threats of termination for leaving at 5 p.m., impossible deadlines set just to watch people fail. The client endured this for 3 years. Why stay, you might ask? Because the client had a family. He had a mortgage. He needed the insurance, and the subject knew this. Predators always know who they can trap. The breaking point didn't come with a shout. It came with a whisper. The client requested time off. His daughter was having surgery. Not a minor procedure, something serious. He had the accrued time. He followed the protocol. He submitted the request 2 months in advance. The subject approved it, or so the client thought. 2 days before the surgery, the client is called into the corner office. The subject is leaning back in his leather chair, scrolling on his phone. He doesn't even look up. He says, "I'm revoking your leave. We have a client meeting that week." The client tries to explain. He mentions his daughter. The subject finally looks up. His eyes are dead. Complete lack of empathy. He says, "Decide what's more important to you, your job or your personal problems. If you're not here Monday, don't bother coming back." In that moment, something snapped inside the client. But he didn't scream. He didn't flip the desk. He didn't quit. He simply nodded. He said, "I understand," and he walked out. He showed up on Monday. His wife handled the surgery alone. It was the hardest day of his life. But while he sat at his desk, typing away, he wasn't working. He was planning. He realized that getting another job wasn't enough. Leaving wasn't enough. This man, this subject, had to be stopped. And the client realized he had the weapon. Access. He had access to the servers. He had access to the email archives. He had access to the financial records. The investigation began that night. The client started staying late, putting in extra effort, he told the subject. The subject loved it. He thought he had broken the client. He thought he owned him. He had no idea he was watching his own executioner sharpen the blade. Step 1. The data collection. The client bought an external hard drive, encrypted. Every night, he copied files. He found the invoices for the home renovations paid by the company. He found the ghost employees on the payroll, relatives of the subject who never stepped foot in the office. He found the emails instructing accounting to fudge the quarterly numbers for the bank. It was a treasure trove of fraud, but the client was smart. He didn't leak it to the press. That's messy. That gives the subject a chance to spin the story. No. The client wanted a kill shot. He wanted the government to do the dirty work. He spent 3 months organizing the evidence. He categorized it by violation: tax fraud, labor violations, bank fraud, OSHA violations. He built a dossier that was bulletproof. He cross-referenced every claim with a PDF of the proof. It wasn't just a complaint. It was a roadmap for a prosecution. The tension during these 3 months was palpable. Every time the subject walked past the client's desk, the air grew thin. One wrong look, one open window on the screen, and it would be over. The client played the role of the beaten dog perfectly. He kept his head down. He took the abuse. He let the subject feel powerful. Confidence is the enemy of caution, and the subject was overflowing with confidence. Then came the day of execution. The client didn't storm into the office and quit. He waited for his annual bonus to hit his account. The subject, surprisingly, paid it, probably to keep the client on the hook for another year. The money cleared on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, the client walked into the office at 8:55 a.m. He placed a single envelope on the subject's desk. It was his resignation, effective immediately. The subject laughed. He actually laughed. He said, "Good luck out there. You'll be begging to come back in a month." The client didn't say a word. He just smiled, a cold, thin smile. He walked out to his car, drove to the post office, and mailed 4 heavy packages. One to the IRS, one to the Department of Labor, one to the State Attorney General, and one to the bank that held the company's massive business loans. Then, he went home and turned off his phone. The silence lasted for about 4 weeks. The slow burn. The client started a new job, better pay, human beings for bosses. He moved on. But he kept an eye on the news. He kept an ear to the ground. The first domino fell on a Monday morning. We know this from former colleagues who reached out to the client. 2 auditors from the bank showed up unannounced. They demanded to see the books. The subject tried to stonewall them. He tried to bluster and threaten, but bank auditors aren't interns. They froze the credit lines by noon. Cash flow is the blood of a business, and the tourniquet had just been tightened. Payroll bounced on Friday. Panic in the office. The subject sent out a mass email blaming a banking error. Classic deflection. But the next week, the suits arrived. Not the bank this time. Federal agents. They didn't ask nicely. They had warrants. They seized computers. They seized boxes of files. The subject was escorted out of his office, red-faced, screaming about a conspiracy. He was right about one thing. It was a conspiracy of truth. The investigation revealed everything the client had documented: the ghost employees, the tax evasion, the fraud. The penalties were astronomical. The back taxes alone were enough to cripple the company. But the bank fraud charges? That's prison territory. The subject's lawyers managed to keep him out of jail, barely. A plea deal. But the cost was everything else. He had to liquidate his assets to pay the fines and restitution. The Porsche? Gone. The vacation home? Gone. The company? Dissolved. The employees were the tragic collateral damage, but most of them found better jobs quickly. The market was good, and they were free from the toxicity. 6 months later, the client was having a drink at a local bar. He saw the subject. He looked 10 years older. He was drinking alone. Wearing a cheap suit that didn't fit right, he was complaining to the bartender about rats and snitches. he was still blaming everyone else. He looked around the room, scanning faces. His eyes passed right over the client. He didn't even recognize him. The man who ruined his life was sitting 20 feet away, and he didn't even know it. The client finished his drink, paid his tab, and walked out into the night. He didn't feel joy. He didn't feel glee. He felt balance. The scales had been tipped, and he had righted them. This wasn't just revenge. It was a correction, a removal of a cancer from the system. The subject spent years building a kingdom on quicksand. All it took was one person to point out the ground was sinking. There is a lesson here. For the bosses, for the leaders, for anyone who holds power over others. You never know who you are mistreating. You never know who is watching. You never know who is documenting. And you never know who has the patience to wait until you are most vulnerable to strike. The quietest person in the room is often the most dangerous, because while you are busy shouting, they are busy listening, and they are busy planning. Case file number 849 closed. The client walked away. The subject lost it all. Justice is rarely swift, and it is rarely loud. Sometimes justice is just a stack of paperwork and a stamp. Now, I have a question for you. What would you have done in the client's shoes? Would you have walked away and let karma handle it? Or would you have burned it all down legally, just like he did? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. This is the PI Diaries. Stay vigilant.